رمضان تجلى وابتسما طوبى للعبد إذا اغتنما رمضان تجلى وابتسما.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today we'll be speaking about the importance of Quran and how we can maintain strong bond with the Holy Quran. It is said that if you want to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then pray, salat. But if you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to speak to you, then open the Quran and recite. Because whatever we find in the Quran are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 30, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا, which means Rasulullah will say that Ya Rab, oh my Lord, my nation had taken the Quran, has taken it as a forsaken thing. When we look at the verse, it looks like it is talking about the past tense. But no, it is about the day of Qiyamah when Rasulullah will be complaining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would be complaining about his ummah, about his nation, about his people, about what? That his nation has taken this Quran as a forsaken thing. Now, let's have a look at this one. Who would be complaining? Rasulullah, the best ashraful makhluqat, the best of the creations. Who would he be addressing and complaining to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And who would he be complaining about? About the ummah. And regarding what? Because they had taken the Quran as a forsaken thing. This is when we are neglectful and we don't recite Quran, and mainly we do not act upon the teachings of the Quran. Because Quran is revealed not just for recitation, rather it had been revealed so the people can learn from it and apply in their own lives. Yes, Quran should change our lives. It's not just the recitation, but yes, recitation is important in order to understand what it says, in order to apply, in order to understand what its teachings are teaching us so we can apply them in our own lives. Imam Rida alayhi salam says that I do Khatm al-Quran in 3 days. And then he mentions the reason. He says that I do it in 3 days because it takes 3 days for me to recite the entire Quran, because I ponder upon that why and what was the verse revealed for. We find the merits of reciting some of the surahs like Surah Al-Waqi'ah. If a person recites that every day at night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase his sustenance. And there are the virtues of different surahs as well. Some of the surahs, if a person recites every day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help him, will protect him on the day of judgment. And there are so many merits about the surahs. Now, one question. Are these merits just for the recitation of the surahs? Or does it mean something else? It's not just the recitation. Rather, when we recite, we should understand what the words, what is the haqiqah of the Quran. Rather, we have to take that reality and put it on our heart so we can apply that. So that means, if you want to benefit from the virtues, what are mentioned about a particular surah, we should be believing in what the surah is speaking about. What if a person recites the surah, but he does not understand in a way, he does not act upon it, then of course, definitely he would not be reaching the high state which is mentioned in the merits. Therefore, we have to understand the haqiqah and the reality of the Quran and not just the words. But yes, I have been repeatedly saying that we need the words in order to reach that reality and haqiqah. Here I remember incident about Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. A person comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and he says, Imam, please teach me Ism A'zam. Now we think that Ism A'zam are some of the words that a person recites and then he can gain those powers, he can get those powers and everything, he can do it. But no, in reality it is the stage that a person has to be so spiritual that when he recites those words, he can see the reality as well. Now, when this person comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam says, okay, do one thing. Go and sit next to that bridge. Imam gives him the address and Imam says, go and sit there and see whatever you see, come and tell me about it. So this person, he goes to that particular address Imam Sadiq alayhi salam had asked him to go to and see what he sees. So he sees that there was an old man who was crossing the bridge. He had some of the wood and the sticks with him. He was the old person and he wanted to go and cross the bridge. In a while he sees that there was a young person who was coming on a horse, and because there was not a lot of space to overtake, so this person, young person who was on the horse, he starts hitting the old man who was going in front of him. And then eventually, because he wanted to overtake, he hits him, he kicks him, and then the young person on the horse, he overtakes and goes away. So this is the thing, what he sees. He comes back to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and Imam Sadiq asks him that, what did you see? He told everything he saw. He said, I saw the old person who wanted to cross the bridge, and there was not a lot of place, and then there was a person, a young person who was coming on the horse, and he kicked that old person and overtook him. Now this was the time Imam Sadiq alayhi salam asked this person. Imam says, if you had Isme A'adam and you were at that place, what would you have done? He said, I would have replied and used my authority and power using the Isme A'adam. Now by listening, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, you know that old person? He was our follower. He was our lover, and he had Isme A'adam, but still he did not choose it. So brothers and sisters, our hearts should be pure and sincere to get the reality of the words of the Holy Quran. They should come on our hearts in order to act upon them. I remember here, once a person comes to the masjid and sees Rasulullah and asks Rasulullah that he says that he wants to learn something from Quran. Rasulullah appointed some of his sahabi, some of the companion, and asked his companion to teach him Quran. The companion taught him Surah Zilzal, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. And then once they finished the surah, once the surah was finished, this person who had come to learn, he asked, now the thing what you have mentioned, is that what Quran says? The Sahabi, the companion said, yes, this is the verse of the Quran. He said, okay, finish. That's enough for me, I'll just go. I have already learned. That person left. This companion came to Rasulullah and said, Rasulullah, the person who had come, he did not have that patience to learn. He just left. Rasulullah asked him, what did you teach him? He said, I taught him about the surah, and when we came to فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى, that where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that every dharra, whatever we do in this world, a person will see in the hereafter. Whatever good we do, we'll see there. Whatever bad we do here, we'll see there. When Rasulullah heard this, Rasulullah said, رَجَعَ فَقِيهًا, which means that the person who had come, he left faqihan, in the state of knowledge, he had learned. So even if we take one verse, but if we act upon it nicely, we can reach closer to the reality of the Quran. So brothers and sisters, there should be some tafakkur and tadabbur, so we can think and ponder about the Quranic verses. And this can only be done while we are attached with the Quran in Natiq, who are the Ahlul Bayt al-Salam. Just Quran in Samit, which is the silent Quran, is not enough for us. Why? Because we need the Quran in Natiq in order to understand what Quran has taught us. I'll just give one example here. We know that Hur was in Karbala, and he was the person because of whom Imam Hussein alayhi salam had to come towards Karbala, because he said, I will not allow you to go to anywhere. Go to Kufa or return to Medina. No, the only place you have to go to is Karbala. But the same person with the tafakkur for only in those few hours, he got closer to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And he was not with Imam Hussein alayhi salam for a long time. No. So now we understand, if the tafakkur is there, if the thought with the pondering is there, then only we can understand it properly. Otherwise, this Hur was the person who would go to the depth of the Jahannam, The same hur is the one when we say, بِأَبِي أَنْتَ وَأُمِّي, that our parents sacrifice on you. Our lives of our parents be sacrificed for you. When we are saying that, hur is one of them. How did hur become hur? Is because of the tafakkur, because of pondering. Otherwise, even if a person does 90 years of ibadat, had it been hur who had done ibadat and worshipped for 90 years, but if it was without tafakkur, if it was without the imam, what would be the value of that ibadat without the imam? Rasulullah says, فَإِذَا الْتَبَسَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْفِتَنْ كَقِطْعِ اللَّيْلِ الْمُظْلِمِ فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالْقُرْآنِ فَإِنَّهُ شَافِعٌ مُشَفَّعٌ. And the hadith goes on, where he says, when the waves of calamities encompass you like the dark night, what should we do? Rasulullah says, فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالْقُرْآنِ. On you is the Quran. Read Quran. Seek refuge in the Quran. فَإِنَّهُ شَافِعٌ مُشَفَّى. And he mentions that this Quran is شَافِعٌ مُشَفَّى, is an intercessor whose intercession will be there on the day of Qiyamah. There is a beautiful saying in Persian where they say, نوکر imam zaman bashim, na نوکر zaman, which means that become the servant of Imam Zaman, the Imam of your time, and not the servant of your time. So now, in order to understand the Quran, we have to take Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam so we can be successful in this world and in the hereafter. As we know that there are two types of revelation of the Holy Quran. One was the sudden, the dafa'i, which I already mentioned in which happened in Laylatul Qadr, which was the revelation of the entire Quran on Rasulullah, which happened in Laylatul Qadr. And the second type of revelation was Nuzul al-Tadriji, which was the gradual revelation which took 23 years in Medina and Mecca. So the entire Quran was revealed in 23 years. Some of the reasons of gradual revelations are to establish the law and the teachings of Islam gradually, to address specific situations and events, and to make it easier for the people so they can understand and they can memorize the Holy Quran. The Quran is like a vaccination against the evil and shaitan. Just like how we get the vaccinations in today's world against the diseases, against the COVID, influenza, or different diseases, the same way Quran is the vaccination against shaitan. A person who stays in touch with the Quran by reciting, by understanding, and by acting upon the teachings of the Holy Quran, he would be vaccinated. We should try to recite Quran as much as possible. This Shahr Ramadan should not be the end of our recitation. Rather, when we go out of Shahr Ramadan, when we are in Shawwal, and then as the time passes away, we should try to continue our habit of recitation. I know it would be very difficult for us to recite one juz per day, but at least we should have the habit of reciting as many verses as possible, or at least a page. Gradually start with one verse a day, and once you're used to it, increase the verse. Once we increase the verse, you can recite one page per day, and then eventually, once we are reciting one page per day, we can add the translation of the Holy Quran as well. This will give us the great opportunity to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq in these special days and nights of Shahr Ramadan, that we can act upon the teachings of Holy Quran. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.